You and your friends order an Uber ride home one night. You estimate the cost of the ride will be C equals 1.95 m plus 2.45, where m equals the number of miles you travel, and C equals the total cost of the ride in dollars. You and your friends count up your money and altogether have $19. Write an inequality that represents the cost of your trip in terms of m. Well, because you have $19, you can spend $19 or less, and because the cost is 1.95 m plus 2.45, the inequality is 1.95 m plus 2.45 must be less than or equal to 19. Again, the cost of the ride must be less than or equal to $19 because you have $19. Next, solve the inequality for m, round the result to 2 decimal places. So let's go ahead and solve the inequality. Remember, to solve an inequality, we solve the inequality just like a linear equation, except if we multiply or divide by a negative, we must reverse the inequality symbol. We first isolate the m term by undoing this addition. To undo plus 2.45, we subtract 2.45 on both sides of the inequality. On the left, this difference is 0, which is why we subtracted 2.45 on both sides. This gives us 1.95 m is less than or equal to 19 minus 2.45, or if we want 19.00 minus 2.45, which gives us 16.55. And now because 1.95 m means 1.95 times m, to solve for m, we now divide both sides by 1.95. Simplifying on the left, this quotient is equal to 1. 1 times m is m. We have m is less than or equal to this quotient here. Let's work this out on the side. We have 16.55 divided by 1.95. The first step is to make the divisor a whole number by moving the decimal point to the right 2 places. And now we do the same in the dividend. The new quotient is 1,655 divided by 195, which is equivalent. We begin by determining how many 195s are in 1,655. That's not an easy question, so we can think of this as 200 and think of this as 1,600 and ask how many 200s are in 1,600, which is 8. So let's try 8 first. And now we multiply 8 in the divisor. 8 times 5 is 40. Record the 0, perform an exchange with the 4. 8 times 9 is 72, plus 4 is 76. Record the 6, perform an exchange with the 7. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 7 is 15. And now we subtract. 1,655 minus 1,560 is equal to 95. Because 95 is less than 195, we know the 8 is correct. But we need to round to 2 decimal places. So now we add a decimal point to the right of the 5 in the dividend, move it up to the quotient, and now we can add zeros to the right of the decimal point. So we add a 0, bring it down, and now determine how many 195s are in 950, which is 4. You can check this, but 4 times 195 is equal to 780. Now we subtract. This difference is 170. Which again is less than 195. We need to add a 0, bring it down, and now determine how many 195s are in 1,700, which is 8. We know from before 8 times 195 is equal to 1,560. Subtract. This difference is 140, which again is less than 195. We are asked to round to 2 decimal places, which means we need to find one more decimal place to round correctly. So we add another 0, bring it down, and determine how many 195s are in 1,400, which is 7. And 7 times 195 is equal to 1,365. We subtract. The difference is 35. So we know the 7 is correct. And now we can stop because we're asked to round to 2 decimal places. So here's the second decimal place. And the 7 to the right indicates to round up, and therefore we round this to 8.49. So now we know that m must be less than or equal to 8.49, And remember, m is a number of miles. So going back to our question, we now know that m is less than or equal to 8.49. Since you must travel more than 0 miles, it does not make sense to include answers where m is negative or 0. Refine your answer from the last questions to only include the answers where m is greater than 0. So m must be between 0 and 8.49, where we don't want to include 0 and we do want to include 8.49. We can express this using a compound inequality. So beginning with the variable m, we know m must be less than or equal to 8.49 and greater than 0. And because inequalities can be read from left to right as well as from right to left, to show that m must be greater than 0, we begin with m and create the inequality from right to left. So we can say that m is greater than 0. So again, we can read this as m is greater than 0 from right to left, and m is less than or equal to 8.49. This is our compound inequality that indicates m must be between 0 and 8.49, where it cannot equal 0, but it can equal 8.49. And then finally, interpret the results by completing the sentence. You and your friends have enough money to travel at most 8.49 miles, again because m must be greater than 0 and less than or equal to 8.49. So again, you and your friends have enough money to travel at most 8.49 miles. Just remember, this value is rounded. I hope you found this helpful.